Forbes India Jobs of the Next Decade, powered by Indeed.
Hello and welcome to Forbes India Jobs of the Next Decade, powered by Indeed. I'm Ridu Bhandari. On this very special series, we are deep diving into different sectors of the Indian economy to help job seekers get a glimpse into the opportunities of the future. Today, our focus is on the consumer technology space, a sector that has seen tectonic shifts, particularly during the pandemic. Today's consumer is more tech savvy than ever before. Critical services as well as sports and entertainment are being consumed online, and there is an increased focus on health, hygiene, and sanitation that is driving consumers towards contactless commerce and digital payments. So how are businesses innovating to keep pace with these changing consumer demands and changing consumer behavior? And what does all of this shift mean for jobs of the future? Those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about here today. Let me welcome my panel of experts: Ravish Malhotra, Head of Talent Acquisition at Rapido; Sohail Vadgaonkar, Director of Talent Acquisition at Urban Company; Akhil Gupta, co-founder and CTO at No Broker; and Shashi Kumar from Indeed India. Welcome, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Well, COVID-19 has been an inflection point of sorts for consumer tech to really shift in India at great scale. Healthcare, education, financial services, etc., all are seeing tremendous digitalization because of the nature of this pandemic that we are in these days. So Shashi, let me come to you first. What do you think has been the larger impact of this pandemic on job creation in the consumer technology space? Are newer jobs coming up because of this increased pace of digitalization?
Even before the pandemic, we've seen a significant increase of interest in the consumer tech space. And it started with the increased penetration of internet. And as that grew, we saw consumer tech growing in tier 1 cities. But what social distancing compulsions because of the pandemic meant, in conjunction with the increased smartphone usage base and reliable internet, meant that the usage of consumer tech went beyond tier 1 cities into smaller cities and towns in India. Another aspect which has helped accelerate this, specifically in the edutech sector, has been the need to upskill. Today, a lot of people in their jobs feel the need that they need to put their skills up to be able to compete effectively. And that has meant that edutech has also taken off independent of the pandemic. But however, the pandemic has accelerated that curve. And we've seen this in different sectors. I think with regard to fintech, edutech has seen a 12% increase in hiring between March and August of 2020. And the number of searches for jobs within edutech increased by about 34% in the same period. Broadly, 3 sectors will see a boost of jobs. The first one, obviously, is technology. The second one is content. And the third one is sales and marketing. And with regard to content, we'll see a lot of content developers, remote teachers specific to edutech, instructors, etc.
Okay, thank you for setting that context for us. Let me also bring in Ravish. Rapido, of course, is a new age mobility company. You're into bike taxis. Give us a sense of the kind of job requirements that arise in a company like yours. How are these different, of course, from a traditional mobility or public transport company? And what is the kind of impact on jobs that you're seeing because of the pandemic?
As an organization, if you look at it, we are expecting a V-shaped recovery to happen after the second wave of COVID. But having said that, I mean, people who have deep expertise, I think they have always been in demand. But if you ask me frankly that what are the jobs that I anticipate to come up in near future, surely there will be a boost of jobs into machine learning, automation, artificial intelligence, and education sector.
Coming to Sohail now. Sohail, Urban Company also uses consumer tech to offer all kinds of services to customers. When it comes to human capital, what kind of a demand-supply gap do you face, irrespective of the pandemic, and how are companies like yours trying to bridge some of these gaps?
Right. That's actually a great question. So, I'd just like to start off by saying that as a country, we are right now in the midst of the biggest crisis we've faced ever, right? As a company, we've seen a lot of our own teammates fall sick, and we're doing the best we can to help them and their families. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because, we've been working remote for the last 13, 14 months now, right? And the last 14 months have taught us a lot about how the future of our industry is going to evolve, or what is it going to look like, right? We are going to, continue to work in a remote manner for the foreseeable future. Um, a lot of companies, including ours, are going to adopt hybrid ways of working. We've seen what remote and hybrid, the problems and the challenges that come with working remotely, right? And it's going to take a lot of, business partnering to ensure that people succeed, people feel good about what they're doing, and companies have a high morale. So that's definitely one area where we're going to be investing.
Let me also bring in Akhil. Akhil, No Broker, of course, is using technology to buy, sell, rent homes. It's a new aspect of consumer technology in the Indian context. Tell us about the role that emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or data analytics, or augmented or virtual reality are playing in the success of consumer tech companies like yours. And what is the demand-supply gap like when it comes to human skills that are required for some of these jobs?
We rely on technology, we rely on AI to solve the problem. And one of the biggest thing what we do is we don't believe in putting people behind solving the problem. So from day zero when we launched, we said we are a technology company. And what has happened in real estate is traditionally people were using brokers, or they were going with a physical person to see the flat, whether they want to buy it, rent out. But now with the pandemic, when people are locked at their houses and still people are moving, what is now happening is people is moving more and more towards the digital means, which means that more technology is needed, more new solutions are needed, more the use of AI, more use of VR is needed, and that is what we have been building. Like if earlier nobody would have thought that flats can be bought and purchased on video calls, which is happening now. So now people want to first virtually visit the flat, however many flats they want to see, they want to see it virtually. So there are video tours, there are live tours which are happening of those flats. Once they like it, maybe they shortlist one or two properties which they like, which they visit finally, and they close the deal. So technology was supposed to play a role going forward, but what pandemic has done is that it has fast forwarded the use of technology. I'll say at least 5 years, 7 years quickly.
I know that predicting a whole decade is a really tall ask today when our world seems to be changing every minute of every day. But as you look ahead, and we talk about jobs of the next decade, what are some of the essential skills or trainings that you think the youth of India should be going in for, especially if they wish to join the consumer technology space?
So if you look at in terms of jobs that would be created in next 1 decade or so, I believe that the EV sector, the electric vehicle sector, I think that is going to pick up very soon. But apart from that, if you look at it, I've already mentioned we will have a lot of jobs in the field of artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning. We will have a lot of jobs into, for product designers, UI, UX designers, product managers. And last but not the least, I surely believe that, in now's world, in today's world, everything is moving online. We are doing trillions of transactions. And when I say transactions, I don't mean monetary transactions, but also transactions in terms of data, right? So a lot of data has been exchanged, millions and trillions of data has been exchanged. So jobs related to cyber security will become surely an important some of the important jobs that are going to come up in next decade.
All right. Okay. So on the hiring front, what is the big picture looking like for 2021? Akhil, if I may come to you, we are battling the second wave of the pandemic here in India. What is the hiring mood like? All of us were very expectant at the beginning of the year that COVID-19 seems to be under control, and we can start getting back to normal as far as hiring is concerned, applying for new jobs is concerned. What is it looking like right now?
So for us, we never stopped hiring. In fact, our biggest hiring has happened during COVID. So after the COVID started, we had ramped up the technology teams and even the operation teams. We launched a couple of new businesses also. So we continue to hire. We continue to hire cautiously, but the business has been growing. Typically, local businesses become 3 times a year, and we have seen same growth this year also. So this is the time which we are using to make more products, settle down the things which were not which needed our time from the technology and the operations and the business perspective, and so that we are ready and we are back with the bang after a couple of months when the things are back now.
So, Hale, can I ask you to chime in there as well? What is the hiring scenario looking like at Urban Company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as like I mentioned, we are investing deeply in, building out tech, product, and design talent. We hired through 2020. We will continue hiring through 2021. The second wave has been unexpected and has definitely had an impact on business. Are we going to stop hiring? Absolutely not. We will maybe stagger out hiring, but we're going to continue hiring. We, of course, as an organization, have a global footprint, right? We're not now restricted to India. We're also in Singapore, Australia, UAE, and where we just launched in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So, they've seen their different phases of the pandemic, and I think the worst is behind the other countries. We've just, we've just launched Melbourne. So the Australia team is hiring almost on a weekly, in fact, this week on a daily basis. So again, these other geographies are going to invest in business. They're going to hire for marketing. Of course, the tech is all going to be centralized for now. We don't know how it's going to pan out over the future. But yeah, we're hiring across functions and across the globe.
Well, thank you very much for those very valuable insights into consumer tech companies in the new normal. We're going to take a very short break right now. On the other side, we'll be joined by another set of eminent industry experts who will be talking about building successful careers in the consumer tech space. Stay with us.
Forbes India, Jobs of the Next Decade, powered by Indeed. Forbes India, Jobs of the Next Decade, powered by Indeed.
Welcome back to Jobs of the Next Decade. I'm Ritu Bhandari, and on this series, we try to give job seekers a glimpse into the opportunities of the future. Today, our focus is on the consumer tech space, and in this session, we are going to be focusing on building successful careers in consumer tech. What does that really take? What are some of the most promising or high growth career tracks that are available over the next couple of years? How should job seekers innovate and really stand out in this highly competitive environment? To answer these questions and more, I'm joined by a set of very eminent industry experts. Let me welcome Anjali Rao, Senior Director of HR at Intel, Jayanti Vaidyanathan, Senior Director and Head of HR at PayPal, Babu Vittal, Head of HR at Vedantu, and Rohan Sylvester, Recruitment Evangelist at Indeed India. Welcome, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Now, the pandemic has really shifted our behavior as consumers. We are accessing all sorts of services using the internet, using the mobile and digital payments. So, Jayanti, let me come to you first. The last year and a half has really caused a tremendous shift in our habits as consumers. We're consuming healthcare, education, financial services, even shopping for essential commodities online. We are seeing a tremendous increase in digital payments. What does all of this collectively mean for consumer tech jobs of the future?
I think while the sudden surge in consumer demand for e-commerce digital services could be due to the implementation of social distancing norms and lockdown measures that countries have taken to contain the pandemic, I think these new norms are finding, not just increasing acceptance, but huge adoption and is today preferred amongst consumers and adopted by traditional businesses as well. So it's kind of revealed a whole new sentiment and world for us. We all know that companies in these segments have witnessed triple-digit growth, millions of new customers onboarding their platform in the last couple of months. At my company, PayPal, we saw a significant rise in what we call the silver tech, older generations that got to adopting digital payments, testing digital payments. But I think for me, the prime and center that's gaining significance is, especially in the light of the emerging work from home culture, communication skills. It's it's cliche, but it's still, in demand, right? How do you effectively demonstrate social activeness? How you enrich yourselves, your knowledge enrichment? How you're able to multitask and work-life balance while maintaining physical and mental health, right? Those continue to be a pivotal theme apart from the functional skills that we speak about.
Right. Okay. So thanks, Jayanti. You've given us a good, well-rounded picture of things as they are. Let me also bring in Babu. Babu, the education sector, of course, has had to also adapt very, very quickly. It's been a steep learning curve for educators, for administrative staff at educational institutions. Now, 1 year on, what are some of the new jobs that have emerged in the education space because of this massive digitalization that we've seen?
It's been a very, very interesting space over the last 1 year. In fact, when the first wave hit us, little bit of history here, when the first wave hit us, in a matter of weeks' time, we ended up adopting from doing door-to-door sales, going and meeting parents and students and trying to explain them about the products we have and the longevity of adopting to a program like what we offer, uh, moving this completely into an online space, right? So the biggest understanding what we had in this transition is how can you kind of start adding a lot of suffix to the existing jobs. When we say sales, it's no longer sales. It's sales with empathy. Right? So that's the new job description and the new requirement which we have opened up in the market. So you don't need a salesperson who could just go punch, have a conversation with a parent and convert it into a sale. We need someone who could show empathy. We need someone who could understand the gap which has arisen because of all the shifts due to the pandemic waves, right? So that's one thing which has emerged very, very significantly. The next opportunity I see is on the technology and product front. There we also see a lot of new jobs coming in.
Right. Okay. Very, very interesting insights there, Babu. Rohan, I'm going to ask you to also give us the larger picture. What are the job roles that have the highest demand as of now in the consumer tech sector in terms of the number of openings? Any Indeed data to suggest any of that?
The consumer tech sector in India had already been on an upward curve even before the pandemic, owing to, not just the increased penetration of mobile phones, but also the increased penetration of the internet. This growth has, of course, has also been fueled entirely by the pandemic. One of the most important areas where consumer tech companies could be hiring in, obviously, are tech-related roles. This is where you've seen our largest growth. In fact, compared to last year, we're almost back to similar pre-COVID levels, almost, but not fully. And it's all driven entirely by tech roles. This could be a variety of different roles, including UI, UX developers, app developers, software engineers, developers, and also artificial intelligence and machine learning experts will be playing a very important role in this consumer tech and also the edutech space, as Babu was saying. We can expect demand and roles related to these newer technologies. Of course, this is not just specific to consumer tech, but overall. If we see job openings for AI-related jobs are 28% increase from August of 2019 to August of 2020, while AI-related job searches saw a 91% spike in the same period. So job seekers are looking for it, and employers are also looking to hire. Other roles that are likely to be in demand include your traditional sales and marketing roles, like account managers, account executives, digital marketers, etc. And another important segment where we can expect demand is content, particularly in the edutech space. This would include roles like content developers, remote teachers, remote instructors, among others. In fact, at Indeed, we saw job seeker interest in remote teaching jobs jump by 212%. And posting for these roles also increased by 93% between March and August of 2020. So there has been a lot of uptick in jobs and several tech-related and content-related roles in the consumer tech sector.
Let me also come to you, Anjali. Intel is a front runner when it comes to powering enterprises across sectors. What are some of the most promising and most high growth career tracks that consumer tech companies are offering to candidates today? And what are some of those opportunities going to be in the next couple of years?
Sure. So, I just want to build off, Ritu, on all that our panelists just said. And just want to highlight a few key critical things. As we moved into this whole virtual work from home kind of an environment. It has clearly fueled a huge demand for PCs, and one wants to see PCs that is able to do a lot for them, right? You want to have PCs that can span your child's education to for you to be able to work effectively. You want to have good graphics. You want to show up really well with the PC, and you want also very smart technologies to power how you work. Right now, just if you had to look at this and correlate it with what that really means, is I think two or three things. In the tech space, there is going to be and there is a need for constant innovation, huge big data analytics, a very very big play of AI, and just a lot of mental bandwidth and power going into what can power your PC and your technology to work for you. I do think in the years to come post pandemic, the whole focus on all of this, plus continued focus on diversity and inclusion and hiring diverse talent, along with a lot of investments in investing into your brand image as a company, which I call as employer value proposition, is going to get heightened. There are going to be job seekers who are going to go out there, see how you position yourself as a company, what are your values, what do you stand for, and will want to apply and work for you, right? So those are really the high level trends that I see showing up.
Babu, if I may come to you, as far as the edtech space is concerned, give us a sense of the kind of skills or training that one should put oneself through in this digital age. What are some of the most promising jobs of the future that young people can aim at in the next couple of years?
The opportunities remain the same, right? I mean, what we, at least in the tech sector, also in the consumer tech sector, what we are looking for is like if you could come with, be strong in your basics, be very clear on the analytical mindset, what you bring to the table, be very clear with your overall understanding of the ecosystem. The opportunities within organizations remain the same. The technology layer could be different, the thinking layer could be different. If you could bring in more amount of adaptability into the way you approach work, you'll be able to just add up all of these three layers together.
Rohan, we've heard some insights on what the jobs of the future might be. Let's also talk a little bit about where one can find these jobs. Where do job seekers go for consumer tech jobs? How do they go about looking for the right fit for themselves beyond perhaps scanning the careers sections of well-known companies?
Well, first of all, the best way to find the next job, your next job, is primarily going to be using various job sites or multiple other digital platforms that exist, particularly job sites that aggregate jobs, including platforms like Indeed. Now, the job search process kind of depends on what the job seeker has in mind. If they're looking for a specific role, it might be worth searching for openings for that role in a specific location. This can be simply done by typing in the name of the role in many search engines, and on Indeed it would be in the what section. On the other hand, sometimes job seekers are looking to work for specific companies. Job seekers can also jump to the career sites of these consumer tech companies and apply for openings there. That, of course, that only works primarily when you have a company in mind. When you don't, the skills, the roles, and the locations that you are interested in should be what drives your decision-making process. Now, when it comes to how to figure out whether they're the right fit, to answer your second question, the first step here is obviously, skills assessment. A job seeker needs to self-evaluate and see what are the roles that fit their skill sets. There are a lot of instances where job seekers apply for jobs that they really don't qualify for, with the assumption that maybe they would get a chance. But in reality, recruiters typically skip over those applications. They don't spend time on it. Now, it's not that all job seekers are expected to fit 100% the fit of what the role is requiring. There will be some leeway depending on organizations and depending on the roles, but you need to take that into consideration. And to do that, you first need to pay clear attention to what the job description or the job postings are saying. Read them very carefully to understand the requirements and assess if the opening is a fit for your skill set, right? And a third step would be to understand the organization that they're applying for, right? Is it a good fit? Now, apart from just seeing if they fit into the role, they need to understand if the organization is an organization that they would be proud to work for. If a job seeker does all of these things, research, finds companies, assesses their skills, their own skill sets, assesses the companies, they should be able to find great jobs at consumer tech companies.
All right, very useful tips there from Rohan for all the job seekers who've joined this show today. Jayanti, let me come to you. I want to pick up two trends that have gained momentum, particularly because of the pandemic. One is that of the gig economy, and two is that of remote working. We've been in a prolonged period of remote working, and the future is uncertain as far as remote work is concerned. In fact, most organizations believe that a hybrid workforce might just be the next new normal that we are looking at. How are consumer tech companies then planning to leverage both of these trends, gig workers as well as remote working in the long term?
I think, tech companies always have demanded a large variety of skill sets and have had the culture of, adopting, say, for example, contractors into their businesses. So that kind of model has always been in place. But what we are seeing now is more and more companies are undertaking business transformation, which becomes critical in the current environment. Undertaking transformation to make their processes more technology driven. I think the whole concept of looking at varied times of employment or gig workers will definitely be, your bread and butter, the need of the hour. I think these new opportunities, we're already starting to see these trends where there is a lot of openness to support nimble freelancers, especially those with very unique or valuable skill sets who can get to work really fast. So it's not just driven by the needs of the employer, it's also driven by the needs of the workforce. And I know we are looking for this kind of creative job seekers, who will show up, who will show up and make a difference in this competitive landscape with all the skills that we spoke about, right? Curiosity, the innovative mindset and basic functional skills. And companies are willing to, adapt to the model versus having to force fit our 9-to-5 models.
Okay, very, very useful tips there from you, Jayanti, for our job seekers here on this show. Anjali, would you like to add to some of those tips that Jayanti just mentioned? The job market in India is a highly, highly competitive one, considering the huge workforce that we have. What kind of creativity would you say that job seekers need to show in order to stand out in this landscape? And what does hiring look like, particularly at your organization, as we battle this second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Sure. I think, most of the points were covered, Amritu. I think a couple of things I'd like to add and more from an Intel standpoint, right? Number one, I think whether Intel or any other tech company, innovation, the gene of innovation, the gene of wanting to solve problems is something that will differentiate people. That will differentiate people in the years to come. I do think for technology companies, having that domain expertise and technology depth is critical, right? Going deep and being and keeping abreast with whatever are the latest technology trends and having that domain expertise is actually what companies look out for. And Intel for sure looks out for that. From an Intel standpoint, I do also want to add, and just going back to the point that Jayanti made also, is that one of the big sources also of how people can look out for jobs is reference, right? It is a very powerful way to attract talent and to also attract the right kind of talent that fits in to the ethos of the culture and the workforce that you have. And this is where, for at least at Intel, we actually have a big proportion of who we hire that come through our employee referral program. People and employees who've joined Intel, who've been here, who really believe and want to work for this company, they refer their friends and so on, right? So that's the other one. And last but not the least, right, I want to reiterate the whole bit on being known for the technology depth. and having, to show that these are the kind of patents, these are the kind of projects, this is the kind of work I've done in the space from an innovative standpoint will help differentiate talent for the future.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today and sharing those very valuable insights into building successful careers in the consumer tech space. That's a wrap of this edition of Jobs of the Next Decade. We'll be back with lots more next time. Till then, thank you for joining us. Stay safe. Goodbye.
Forbes India, Jobs of the Next Decade, powered by Indeed.